of these teams are just trying to establish dominance in a way. That last one in Erangel, I felt like both of those teams were surprised that happened. Okay, so I don't expect to see that again. Now, I mentioned it earlier when we go here on Miramar. I'm really intrigued to see if Vampire Esports is going to continue landing there on Picado with Knights. Mentioned it perfectly too. I mean, in the second Miramar, Vampire Esports got the better out of that, so I really don't see them backing off. I do see Knights backing off when it comes to that Miramar hot drop.
Yes, indeed. Let's take a look here in the battlegrounds. They got Evos right there. Micro Boy chilling out. Macro Boy's had some pretty crazy performances, and he did a really good job yesterday, Glitter.
You know, I know that you guys got to have this all day yesterday, but the fact that we get to watch all of the players together, this makes... I was talking about it when we were watching the game, too. This might be my favorite part. We get the live reactions now, the little player cams popping up while we're playing the matches. I was doing this before off camera. Okay, I was trying to give the finger hearts as well. Like, I love this. I missed this. I am so happy that we get to see their personalities, the excitement, their emotions. Like, this is the coolest part.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. The fans on full blast to go and help cool them down from all the things that they gotta get done here today. And you can just see there. What's up?
You were talking about Microboy. He was actually the last player standing for his team in the last match. They need to switch that up.
And he's had the most points when it comes to last man standing players. So let's see who's going to be the last man standing here at batch number 2. Let's get this show on the road. Let's take it on over to our casters.
We are getting into Miramar now as we load on up into the plane once more. Players getting all set, all ready. Headphones on. Stay hydrated and get into the games. Of course, you will need it. Miramar, pretty toasty.
Definitely toasty, and I think it's going to get even toastier in Picado here. We saw yesterday Vampire and the Knights, they both dropped there twice. First time around, you know, they had a mutual agreement. You loot your side, we loot our side, and we'll play from there. The next Miramar game, we saw Vampire get very aggressive and actually take out, you know, quite a few players of the Knights, leaving them down to a duo. Now, with this being a new day, and I would say Vampire with a strong first game that we had just now, if they had any idea of fighting the Knights, they definitely feel confident to take the fight to the Knights now.
That's what it's all about, really. Confidence, staying on the level, getting that even kilter going in. It's easy to get swept away. I mean, with the frustration that teams like Godlike Stalwart will be feeling, it's easy to get swept up in that, and that really can play back into a feedback loop into your gameplay and spiral out of control. So you'd want to do everything you can. Just try and keep it nice and even. As the teams start to focus on loading into the lobby.
Have Stalwarts here. I hope they got all their frustrations out on the first day. We saw on the first day, Glitter was talking about, you know, we get to see the emotions out of the players, you know, their excitement, etc., but also their frustrations, right? Stalwarts, we had a desk slam moment on day number 1, and with day number 2 not going, you know, too well to start off with, I think Stalwarts should be okay, though. They'll chalk it up to, you know, just a bad performance. Still have quite a few more games today, and the plane path extremely low down to the south, stretching just slightly up to the northeast.
We did have a pretty deep cut on the south of the plane path last time around on the Erangel, but it seems like that's going to kind of continue, I suppose. It's a little bit kinder on the lean, but still, as you say, isolating a lot of this south side. Teams will start to drop out. I think we saw Picado hot drop start to get a little bit louder yesterday in Miramar, in the second Miramar game. Is that going to repeat itself? We'll have to find out.
I mean, I think so. I think Vampire's feeling really confident now. For Stalwarts Esports, this was a similar plane path which had them stretched to the north of Picado for vehicles, and we saw them just get driven down by a party bus. And they were getting Winchestered and shotgunned as they were trying to get their bike to start. So maybe they'll adjust their drops just a little bit to avoid that situation once again. And we have a very, very new, different type of Miramar circle for today. I love this one. Up to the northwest.
Centering up in Crater Fields and near El Pozo. They will have to move out that way. A lot of teams actually dropping near Picardo, so a lot of vehicles will be slurped up and away from that. So potentially this engagement with the Pittsburgh Knights could be elongated by the fact that they won't have as many opportunities to grab vehicles and get away from this.
Oh, don't let him get on that bike. Oh,
oh dear.
The bike and wait. A bike and a buggy spawn that close to each other?
Maybe. I mean, I guess they must have done, right?
Huh. Unless that's like a new update or something. I feel like Order dropped down on the buggy first and drove over to that player to run him over before he could get on the bike. But Nova starting it off strong with one. To run him over before he could get on the bike. But Nova starting it off strong with 1 point to their name, and you see a lot of players on foot, right, stretching to the north, trying to find those vehicles that are so elusive.
Just trying to grab them, and everybody will be looking for them, probably more fervently than even usual, because normally you're looking for them quite eagerly, but this time around, you will need to get on those bikes a little bit earlier, especially if you want to escape Order, because you're going to have to go pretty far on this northwest rotate. So teams looting down south going to have the hardest time of it. Probably that west road is going to be a really important piece of land to control. Bacon Time currently in the lead on it, moving towards El Pozo.
And I'm surprised HVVV actually looting all the way down in the southeast. We saw them do, I do believe it was La Cabrera that they usually take. This would have been perfect for them, right? They would have just jumped off the plane early, drove up to the north, and got in a huge northern circle. So now, this time around, well, actually, I think it works out for HPVV. They just don't have the circle, which is what they always play with, not having the circle, right? So, Warpath initiated for HVVP. We'll see in the next coming moments what they could do. Alpha 7 right here on the far northeast once again. So I think this is their claimed drop spot regardless of plane path. They like to start in from the northeast when it comes to Miramar.
HVVP were able to maintain the 20-point barrier that they had between themselves and second place. It was EFOS in second place for this time around. It's Alpha 7 who did step up a little bit more in that last game, but they still have that 20-point buffer. So HVVP definitely still in charge of this lobby. I'll have to figure out how they want to move into this next one. I imagine that one from Valle de Mar will try and head up that west coast fairly soon. HVVP might have a little bit more of a firecracker lit underneath them because they are really on the long side behind everybody in the queue.
We're only 4.5 minutes in, and the center of the circles are already starting to fill up. Players setting up on those high ground positions. These players have barely had any time to loot, but they understand the importance of having terrain control, especially with these high hilltops. And the Knights already, you know, they left Picado. There has been no engagement, and they're prioritizing a rotation. All 4 members of the Knights and 1 bus right now, too. So that could be quite dangerous for them. We see Bacon Time up here taking this high ground with the M249.
Shirty just scoping out the opposing hillside. Spots just a sliver of a vehicle and instantly zeros on it. Doesn't take the shots, though. We'll have that information.
I think that's his teammate's vehicle. Yeah, that is taking a look at the minimap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they already have a split on the north side and the south side. And you saw level 1 helmet, red dot. Not the best gear to be holding up, you know, on that high ground, but it's all about the presence. As long as they can pop off some shots up there, teams will keep their head down and, you know, think better of it.
Nova moving in from the east side. They're moving currently through past Hacienda del Patron on their west. Not quite in the circle. The circle is just a little bit to their west. Not too far at all, though. It's only about 200 meters to their west. So they are going to probably look to swing out towards the north and through Alpha 7's path.
Very fast rotations for everybody here. This is like 5 to 6 minutes, and everyone's already on the road trying to get a
Nova
good position.
in from the east
I think
side.
it also
They're
has to do with
moving
the fact
currently
with this
through,
circle,
through
it's
past.
like
That's the end of the
unfamiliar,
Delta
so
on
they
their
rather
west.
not chance it
Not
by
quite
taking
in
their
the circle.
time and just get there quickly. And wow, nice shot. Xenox actually getting that one with the Uzi. So the Knights with a very fast early rotation pays out. Supply must be very low, you know, for those two players up on the hilltop. They were there, it's like sub 5 minutes. So they want to make sure when they do shoot, it's to confirm eliminations or get, you know, for sure, at least for sure, get a knock. So spraying all those bullets at moving vehicles is probably not the best of ideas. You do Alliance here on the south side, south edge of the circle almost, slowly making their way in, doing some good scouting right there, spotting out the player of the Knights.
EVOS still moving in on this east side. They started the day up in second place. They slipped a little bit, but still very much in that conversation. From their solo play from Microboy, they definitely kept themselves there. 69 points right now. It'd be nice for them to get a little bit more and gain some of that ground back over towards Alpha 7. But HVVP, the prize at the top right now, still yet to let it slip fully. They're playing, as you said, very far back on that south side of the circle. They're not even going to swing out west.
Yeah, I think when you're rotating in this late, you just wait to see which side the circle shifts to, the east or the west. If you commit to the west this late and then the circle shifts to the east, you're just playing constant catch up. So, well, I mean, that works out
Even
for
better.
HVVP. Just have the circle go down right towards you. Very far shift down to the south. I wish it kind of stayed more up in the north. You know, we get to see creative fields in play, but this area of power grid and those mountaintops down on the south still makes for very interesting gameplay.
There's a lot of roads cutting through this as well. The hilltops that Bacon Time operate on right now, really, really valuable if you can get that high ground peak. We've seen it be super, super impactful just a little bit further south of them, over the fields to the southeast of El Pozo. And power grid as well, a major feature in this next circle. Teams looking to move down south, crunching in. The path on the west is going to be chocker with about 4 teams. On the east, though, I think there's going to be a couple more moving through Semartan.
Yeah, the northeast is going to get very, very difficult to traverse. You have that just one roadway, but it's surrounded by high ground, which I see multiple teams already taken up. There's going to be a lot of fighting potentially on the northeast. A bit more manageable on the western side, but either way, this circle is not very friendly for anybody when it shifted down that hard to the south.
I mean, other than HVVP, right? Like that's kind of it. When you're the lobby leaders, that's just gravy on top of the meal. 1 million, spot a player from Skylights Gaming. Will not allow the revive either. Nima definitely going to get flushed out here, and there's just a full disengage coming through.
Yeah, instantly. 1 million yesterday. They were holding third place, and we were quite surprised because they've had quiet, consistent performances, but I don't feel like that's enough because they have slipped down to 8th place overall. Maybe today, coming into a new day, they're going to ramp up their aggression, maybe just a little bit, or at least, try and stick their heads out, to have one of those bigger games rather than just consistent, small, top 5 finishes.
$1 million on the west side laid claim to their position. And El Pozo not really going to be challenged by anyone at this stage, so they're going to have to figure out how to leave it, I suppose, fairly soon at this point. It's going to be tricky with Bacon Time operating on the high ground to their east side. Nova moving into the north side, up towards the top of the hill near Power. I mean, if they can't fight them over on Erangel, why not take this fight over on Miramar?
It's either Nova versus Power or Nova versus HVVP. I feel like these two teams just cannot get away from each other. And it's like on the far northeastern edge. I don't think they're going to commit to that whatsoever. Because, yeah, once again, Circle going down south right on top of HVVP. I mean, talk about getting Circle blessed. I mean, as far as HVVP is concerned, they didn't even need it. But they'll take it.
You do take those. They're playing a solid 4-way split right now on some high ground, controlling a lot of the open space. Damwon will move down south and try and swing in through on the road to the southeast of Monte Nuevo. This kind of is good news for a couple of teams as well, because it means that the road isn't going to be a major feature into these final circles.
Taking a look at Evos here. They are on that northeastern edge of the zone, right next to Power Grid, taking the dips. And there's multiple little goalies and dips all around Power Grid. Might see quite a few teams just all converge around that area coming in from the northeastern side. The Knights picking up another nice little elimination. And this might be more than just one, as Solus trying to get out of there as quickly as possible with that buggy.
Solus continues to head down south, but still Xenox peppering away. UMP, though, needs a reload, needs a refresh. Fortunately, Coops catches it. Mini 14 on the red dot.
Mini 14 on the red dot on a buggy, driving horizontally? That's not an easy shot to make. Man, Coops.
Hey, it's Coops things, man.
It's just Coops things, of course.
Oh, dear. Well, Tensor now with his own challenge coming on through. It's Alpha 7 rolling over the top of the hill. Carrillo proves too much for him. Will get run down with a rear tire slamming in. Coops now up to the mantle. Can he perform Coops things, or are they just going to look to disengage here? Because they're right on the edge of the circle. They don't have too much ground to play with. It might be better to try and prioritize position, but looks like they want to surround, try and swarm on Alpha 7.
They have an opportunity in the shape of Xenox, and just as I say that, Xenox trying to do a cheeky play flanking them. He gets caught out. Alpha 7's, their positioning, their awareness just too strong. Now the Knights are forced to retreat, but you can bet your butt Alpha 7 is going to decide to push that, because it's a 4v2, and this is Alpha 7 we're talking about.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to look to mount up. In the meantime, HVVP are controlling out. It's playing a little bit split right now. Still, I would say a 2-1-1 at this stage, with Meku kind of split from Kitsune. I'm counting them as 2. But Fireflux very, very close by. Top of the hills still occupied, though, by Tixie, and I think that's Matic as well, up the top on the high ground.
Oh, another fight here. Nova and Evos on the eastern edge. I think Nova's in a much better position. Circle goes to the west. So we got a split of high ground and low ground in play now.
Will be very, very tricky for these teams on the east to navigate their way in. As you say, Evos and Nova on the precipice of a fight, but do they disengage here? I suppose with the knock coming in, Nova wants to try and put the pressure in and will be able to find Micro Boy. A very valuable pickup on the Evos roster. Won't be able to accrue any points as a solo this time around. Evos down to 3 as the spray from Order just continues to put that pressure on.
We'll be able to just edge their way into zone uncontested. Make that 4 potentially. Oh, just in the nick of time, he gets over that edge.
That was very, very close. Too close for comfort for Evos, but they'll play with a different solo this time around. Lyzag will be trying to make his way in. The last representative for the squad, Alpha 7. This is the crash that you were talking about. They are 4, there's only 2. This is what they go for. This is the shot, but Spec drops a nade right around the corner, and Mythic eats it for breakfast. Unfortunately, it's not the most nutritious thing in the world. Coops, though, getting burnt away in the Pittsburgh Knights. They are not looking healthy. In fact, they will be down 16th place with 2 elims.
How did they know? How did they know Coops was in there? Out of all the compounds. And
They know he's got to be somewhere, right?
yeah, that was maybe they spotted Coops running in there, and Coops thought he was, hidden. But either way, really well played, Smalley. Looking down on the south side, on the low ground, we have Damwon and Inko. Inko right now with 3 players, I believe. Taking a look at the right-hand side, so many teams suffering casualties here. Damwon Gaming with 4. They had a huge game number 1. Game number 2, they're keeping 4 up, albeit in the low ground on the edge of the map, however.
Power northeast side, 4 players alive. Keeping that line together. Vampire similarly positioned, similar area. Going to look for probably a very similar rotation. HVVP still continuing to exert their control, but with Order taking down Tixi on the high ground, that's going to force a reposition. It's going to severely reduce the sightlines available to HVVP. You can see Matic instantly responding to try and move over towards Tixi. They really want to look for this res, or at least try and find a little bit of an answer in a trade.
I love what I'm seeing here. You have the 3 players of Nova in the backside, giving huge supporting different angle lines, and you got the one-man army of Order just pushing on up. Oh, he's got to be a little bit careful here. He should hear the footsteps of Matic and not get sideswept completely. And Order, it's taking shots from Meku. And no way!
He's nailing it. He's nailing it in response.
Oh my god.
Order is single-handedly pulling apart HVVP. Fortunately, a nade from Matic slows it down, but with Meku out and bleeding, Nova can look to crash. Matic moves forwards. Kitsune is there as well. 3 players are alive for Nova in the foothills, and HVVP's once stronghold is now coming crumbling down. Meku needs a res, and Kitsune will dash out wide. They can't quite go fast forwards, and this is what HVVP are going to rely on. These positions not being available to them. Meku flushed out. Kitsune now left out in the open, needs to play the cover.
This could still work out for HVVP, though, because they have 2 on the high ground. They got that res, and essentially Nova's pincered in. One good nade could do them in. And taking a look at the minimap, I don't think either team's going to get third-partied. Everyone else surrounding them are safe in a strong position in zone. I don't think they're going to, try and third-party that fight. Damwon Gaming on the south side does get the edge of zone once again. Not so fortunate for Inko, though, because they lose that circle and they try and do some sort of push, but they are getting picked apart.
Only Vitu2K remains for the squad. It's northeast side of this engagement, and we'll fall down. Hang on a minute, that's a nade from Kitsune over onto King. So we tune back in with the HVVP Nova fight. Damwon might try and push in and skirt around these hills, which is probably worse for Nova at this stage because the top of the ground is being held. Tixi, that's really good, but it's just a little bit too slow. It doesn't quite make it all the way down. Paraboy and King stay safe in the divot.
Cooked for just a second too long. And with those sightlines, actually, HVVP don't get full control of the top to choke down Nova. We have some suppressive fire out of Stalwarts. Stalwarts with 4 members alive this late into the game. This is a nice change of look coming out of them. This might be a big game as they do have that high ground. We'll see how they decide to play it, though, as a lot of other teams still slowly making their way into this circle.
Godlike Stalwart playing as 4. They're all alive for now. We'll see if that remains the case. USG Donuts moving a little bit further south. Will be fairly close to Udo Alliance on the southeast side of them, but have got this really solid cover on both sides of them as they occupy a valley. They're back, probably their most vulnerable spot.
Yeah, so many dips to work with here. 1 million and Alpha 7 on the western side. Alpha 7 down to just 2 players. Mafioso could get revived here, but they have the team of Skylights on the mountaintop right in front of them, and then a 4-man team of 1 million. And I see one player of 1 million driving over, seeing if he could set up onto the rest of the Alpha 7 team.
HVVP left the hilltop. They've sort of started to regroup towards Kitsune and the buildings to the western side. Probably going to be quite useful in these coming circles, but there is still catch to worry about. Godlike Stalwart holding off on the north side. Against Vampires, they try and crest a couple ridges. How dare they be so bold? They are sent back by the gunfire.
There's so many teams still alive. 14 teams. Oh, I said that too soon. 13 teams alive as Alpha 7 does get taken out. 1 million does spot a chance to strike, and they go for it. I was just saying, 1 million, very quiet, consistent performance in day one, but that has led them to slip down. I want to see them play a little bit bigger, a little bit louder, and they are starting to do that.
Certainly are. Puff up, create a presence. 1 million still trying to push in against this solo hold, essentially. One nade through the window is going to be all that's needed. Bit too long on the cook there for the nade. Marshall wants to put another one in, and actually forcing Mr. Board on the outside. Still not finding the damage. How is he surviving this bombardment? I've no idea, but they want to put another one in. Do they think he's still in the building? I think they might do. In the meantime, Power moving up, and it's Nova to cut them back, fittingly. Jimmy, though, spotted, and actually flushed out very, very quickly as Damwon roll over the top of the hill. With HVVP moving aside, there is no protection from that angle, and now Nova have a new threat from up top.
Just constantly being sandwiched here. If they tuck themselves deep enough, they should be fine. And Damwon, yeah, taking the fight to HVVP now. Damwon, once again, from the low ground, all of a sudden finding themselves on the high ground with a huge advantage.
Able to get some really solid angles. I don't think Matic gets back up here. Tixie's not moving. Kitsune is not either. So playing as a duo potentially for HVVP to move things forwards. Will Nova be able to survive? Vampire fragging out Bacon Time Fall in the meantime on the melee on the north. That will start to crunch on in, but Fireflux, hang on a minute. Ketch just finally stood up and took down Tixie. Even Kitsune solo for HVVP. This could be one of the worst performances that they've had so far this tournament.
Yeah, and it's because they got the zone.
Go figure.
Yeah, go figure. Well, I mean, when you get the zone and you start getting surrounded and you're playing that wide and loud, you know, it could really bite you in the butt, and I think that is exactly what's happening here. Meanwhile, Nova just sticking strong together in this little ditch, in this little gully. They are very resilient. And, close. Paraboy down to 1 HP. Is he going to bleed out? I think they tapped that revive, but if Damwon has a nade, that could spell so much trouble for the Nova side.
Yeah, you'd imagine so. I think there was one or so in the pocket. There's a nade over the top. Paraboy knocked. Damage sent over towards Nova. In the meantime, 1 million eliminated. Oh, sorry, no, going up to 5 elims. I thought that was the elimination flash, but no, they're still on 4 players alive. On the western side, probably one of the stronger positions. I mean, Donuts USG may be able to hold them out if they can regroup properly. In the meantime, north side, Udo Alliance against Vampire. Fluka takes a knee. Should be flushed out there as well. Not going to be too healthy. Now it's just the 2 players active for Vampire, but they are going to go for the shots underneath the bus, not quite threading the needle there as Ravenclaws move forwards. Udo Alliance with 2 players on the ridgeline. They're probably going to be able to win this one out, but they're worried about Schweppes' position. Maybe just looking to put out a smoke or 2 and go for the fight, but hang on a minute, it's 1 million coming through on the backstab of the third party towards Udo Alliance, and everybody's taken a toll on this fight as in-roll Godlike Stalwart from the eastern side, and both of the teams in the fight get backstabbed.
Here we go. Star Wars now finally springing into action. The dominant position here, working from that high ground down. New zone has shifted, but I don't think really impacts much. Every team was already committed to fighting, and now with the circle shifting away from them, it's not going to change much at all. They're going to continue to do this fight. Vampire is so resilient, still alive somehow, some way, but that's because there's a third party on the fourth party, which is keeping Vampire just alive a little bit longer.
Goodness me, they're trying to draw it out super far. See what they could do. Udo Alliance will be able to cut one down. Marshall falls on the crossfire to the divot that Miramar is famous for. Senke steps up, it's a spray, and Vampire crest at exactly the same time. Udo Alliance now with just 1 player remaining. As Vampire move on through, they have pushed back Godlike Stalwart, or Godlike Stalwart retreated from this engagement. They didn't want any part of it, and now Vampire are staying alive with 3.
Oh, man. I feel like that's a sign of Stalwarts, given their previous games, playing a little bit more passive. I think if this was prime form Stalwarts with, no bad games, they would have continued to press that third party with no questions asked, but it's still okay for them. They still have 4 up. They just play a more dominant position, which, I mean, in my opinion, they could have gone back to after picking up a few more points. Catch, meanwhile, causing so much trouble for everyone, causing trouble for HVVP and the side of Damwon. He finally goes down, and there we go. The last player of Udo Alliance finally taken out, and another one. 1 million finishing that fight off.
I mean, it's only fitting, right? It is only fitting that that fight ended that way. I think the solo player from Udo Alliance took down either 1 or 2 players from Vampire in the meantime. 1 million obviously with that final blow to be dealt, but now 1 million need to escape, and potentially Godlike Stalwart have made the right call here, disengaging from that, leaving them to their own devices because they know the sightlines are going to be strong from the south side. Down 1. Looks like they will take a tumble as well. 6th place, 4 eliminations, a decent point scoring. It should keep them in the top 3. Nova, though, want to try and wrest that from them. Playing, at the moment, with 3 players alive. King low.
Yeah. Donuts USG, by the way. We saw that, you know, surgical rotation cutting right down into the middle of everyone into that deep gully. That has rewarded them heavily as they have split up into a 1-3 split. HVVP used to have that compound, but they were so split they could not, you know, assert any presence. So now USG will be taking the compound and that prime position right here out of Missile.
Can Missile hold out on this spot before Godlike Stalwart get there? Can they regroup to it, or do they even want to at this stage? They know everyone's going to be looking their way. Senke, Lone Ranger for 1 million. In comes the regroup. They are trying to go for this crash across the field, and it looks like it is going to work out. 2 of them make it to some divots. Nova might still have vision. They're going to be able to get into cover. Order suppressed. Here comes Power as well with their 2 players. The bus goes up, but they've already made that crossing. They've already made that dash. What more can you find?
That was very risky, but maybe necessary because they lost that zone at the compound. That 1 bus really making it there was huge for Donuts. That could have been the game-winning play or the game-losing play, but it works for now. But there's still a 4-man of stalwarts that everybody needs to be wary of.
All they need is that little opener onto Missile, and then they can move in through that valley, take control of a lot of this map. King actually tickled by the play zone, more than that as well, gets knocked by it. Paraboy answers with the off angle and will be able to take down the player. Donuts USG acting as a backstop. Kante has moved into a position where he has shots underneath this bus, and that is going to leave Donuts USG as with a real sore one to wake up to there. 5 teams remain, and Zone 9's closing in 5 seconds.
Missile, meanwhile, manning a 1-man defense against the entirety of STE. I think I saw a double knock with the Molly in the elimination feed. Now Nova has a really good chance to spring up as Stalwart is preoccupied with Missile, and Order, once again, with those util, they're looking up over. Lufa gets a nice knock onto King, though. That's going to slow things down. Order needs to hit those, doesn't get it, but another player will pick that up. Nova down to 2, maybe get a revive, and Stalwart's with 3 players up still.
Finally moving them aside. Godlike Stalwart, 3 players, as you say, still trucking into the circle. Everybody's going to have to move forwards, out into the open ground. I feel like Power and Nova are at a disadvantage in this scenario at this stage. 3 players alive for them. Godlike Stalwart can start to exert control over these sidelines, but Nova have swung down and actually moved into a favorable position. Power swept aside, and Nova looking to reclaim their position in those top 3 and challenge once again towards those top spots as 1 player's down. Scry is there. Action needs to stand tall, but they can't find the answer onto Paraboy as he fades away with the shots. Just Action remains, and he's in the sidelines of Order. You do not survive long there. And it is going to be Nova taking the chicken dinner.
That was, if you rewind that game from the beginning, that was not an easy game whatsoever. Nova made their first rotation very, very far up to the northeast, and the zone constantly shifted down to the southwest, completely opposite of where they started from, and they just worked their way